Rain fell in thin, relentless lines the night Daniel Harper died, blurring the red and blue lights that cut through the darkness. His car sat crushed against an old oak tree at the edge of Willow Creek Road, its front end folded inward like paper. Steam hissed from the hood. Glass glittered across the wet asphalt. By the time the police arrived, Daniel was already gone. The initial assessment was simple. Too simple. Daniel Harper, 46, married, no criminal history, a local insurance manager known for routine and caution. The road curved sharply, visibility was poor, and accidents happened there before. The responding officer noted the skid marks, the angle of impact, and the absence of another vehicle. A tragic loss, they said, a tired man driving too late in the rain. The town accepted it without hesitation. By morning, flowers lined the roadside. By afternoon, neighbors spoke of Daniel in the past tense, their voices soft and certain. The case file was already being prepared for closure. But Detective Ryan Cole didn't like neat endings that arrived too quickly. He stood at the crash site just after sunrise, hands in his coat pockets, staring at the damaged tree. Rainwater pooled at its base, darkened by oil and dirt. The road was quiet now, deceptively calm. Cole crouched low, examining the faint tire marks that cut across the pavement. They didn't make sense. The official report said Daniel had lost control and slammed into the tree head-on. But Cole could see something else, marks that suggested hesitation, a brief attempt to stop, a correction, not the panic of a man drifting off, but the reaction of someone realizing too late that something was wrong. Cole straightened and exhaled slowly. "Who brakes like that?" he muttered. At the mortgage, the medical examiner confirmed there were no drugs or alcohol in Daniel's system, no signs of distraction, no health issues that could explain sudden loss of control. The steering wheel bore no defensive damage, no signs Daniel had fought the wheel in desperation. It was as if the car had decided his fate before he could. Daniel's phone had been found several feet from the vehicle, face down in the mud, power off. The screen cracked but not shattered. Another small detail filed away, another question left unanswered. Cole visited the Harper home that afternoon. The house was immaculate, white siding, trimmed hedges, a porch swing that didn't squeak. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and untouched coffee. Emily Harper sat at the dining table, her hands folded neatly, eyes red but dry. She wore black, pressed and deliberate. She stood as Cole entered, offering a polite nod instead of surprise. "Detective," she said, "I was expecting someone." Cole noted that, too. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mrs. Harper," he said gently. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady. "Daniel was a good man." She said it the way people say facts, not memories. Cole asked routine questions first, where she was when Daniel left, what time he'd gone, whether he'd mentioned anything unusual. Emily answered smoothly, never pausing long enough to appear uncertain. "He worked late sometimes," she said. "That night wasn't different." "Any arguments?" Cole asked. A flicker crossed her face, gone almost instantly. "No," she said, "nothing serious." Cole glanced around the room. Framed photos showed smiling vacations, holidays frozen in time, a marriage carefully displayed, too carefully. "When was the last time you spoke to him?" Cole asked. Emily hesitated, just a second too long. "Earlier that evening," she said. "He texted me, said he'd be home soon." Cole nodded, though he already knew that wasn't entirely true. Phone records showed Daniel had made a call just minutes before the crash, a long one, heated based on tone analysis from the voicemail he'd left before hanging up. That call hadn't been mentioned. When Cole left, Emily remained at the table, hands still folded, eyes fixed on a spot where nothing waited. Back at the station, the accident report landed on Cole's desk. Another officer joked about how quickly it would be cleared. Cole didn't laugh. He reviewed the vehicle inspection report next. The brakes were listed as functional. That word bothered him. Functional didn't mean reliable. It didn't mean untouched. He requested a secondary inspection. That evening, Cole drove Daniel's usual route home. He followed the same stretch of road, noting streetlights, curves, blind spots. The road wasn't dangerous, not to someone who drove it regularly, and Daniel had. As Cole approached the tree, he imagined Daniel behind the wheel, the rain, the realization, the brake pedal pressed down, hard, and nothing happening. Cole stopped his car and stepped out, rain soaking his jacket. He stared at the oak tree, then at the road behind him. That's when he noticed something overlooked in the dark. A scuff along the roadside barrier, fresh, metal against metal. Daniel hadn't been alone. The next day, Cole spoke to neighbors. A woman 2 houses down recalled hearing raised voices through an open window a week before. A coworker mentioned Daniel seemed distracted, anxious, like someone waiting for a moment to act. Another neighbor mentioned the insurance policy. He updated it recently, the man said, mentioned it at a barbecue, said it was just being responsible. Cole checked the records. The policy had been increased significantly just 3 weeks before Daniel died. That night, Cole sat alone in his office, files spread across his desk, accident photos, phone logs, financial statements. He stared at the clock on the wall, listening to its steady tick. Accidents didn't leave trails like this. They didn't come wrapped in rehearsed grief, altered timelines, and mechanical uncertainty. Cole closed the folder slowly. The town thought the case was over. The paperwork said it was an accident. But someone made a mistake, not on the road, but in the lie, and Cole intended to find out who.
Detective Ryan Cole learned early in his career that lies rarely arrived alone. They came in groups, overlapping and contradicting, each one forcing the truth further into hiding. By the time he began part 2 of the Harper case, he could already feel the pressure building, the quiet resistance of people who believed if they stayed consistent long enough, reality would bend to their version. It wouldn't. Cole started with Daniel Harper's last known movements. His phone records showed the final call lasted 7 minutes and 43 seconds, long enough to argue, long enough to threaten, long enough to change a life. The call had been placed to a number saved in Daniel's phone as M, no last name, no emoji, just a letter. Cole drove to the gas station 2 miles from Willow Creek Road, the last confirmed place Daniel had stopped. The clerk, a young man with tired eyes and a nervous habit of tapping the counter, remembered him immediately. He wasn't drunk, the clerk said, wasn't tired either. He was angry, trying not to show it. Angry at who? Cole asked. The clerk shook his head. He was on the phone, kept saying, "You promised." Then he stopped talking and just stared at the floor like he realized something bad. That wasn't the picture of a man driving carelessly into the night. Cole returned to the station and pulled Daniel's emails. Most were routine, work updates, bills, neighborhood notices. Then he found one draft email that had never been sent. No subject line, just a few lines typed and erased, then retyped again. "I know what you did. This ends tomorrow." Cole sat back in his chair. Tomorrow never came. He paid Emily Harper another visit, this time without flowers on the porch or neighbors watching from windows. The house felt emptier now, quieter in a way grief couldn't fully explain. Emily greeted him with the same composed expression. "I already told the police everything," she said. "I'm not the police. I'm the one who asks questions after everyone else stops." Cole showed her the phone records. "You spoke to Daniel the night he died," Cole said calmly, "after you told me you didn't." Emily's lips tightened. "I forgot." People forget small things. They don't forget arguments. Silence filled the room. Then Emily sighed, pressing her fingers to her temples. "He was upset, but not with me. With work. I didn't think it mattered." "Did he tell you where he was going after he left?" Cole asked. "No." Another lie. Subtle, practiced, but still a lie. Cole left without pushing further. He had learned that truth surfaced faster when people believed they were still in control. Next came Mark Ellison, Daniel's longtime friend and business associate. Mark lived alone, his house cluttered with unfinished projects and empty beer bottles. He spoke too quickly, smiled too often. Dan was stressed. He always was. Control freak. Probably just lost it. Daniel serviced his brakes 3 days before he died, Cole said, at your garage. Mark's smile faded. Yeah, routine check. Your mechanic notes say the work wasn't completed, parts ordered but never installed. Mark's jaw tightened. We were busy. Cole leaned closer. Then why were the brake lines compromised? Mark stood abruptly. Are you accusing me of something? I'm asking why the man who trusted you ended up unable to stop his car. Mark asked for a lawyer. By midweek, the case was no longer quiet. Cole had reopened forensic analysis despite resistance from higher-ups eager to keep the death classified as an accident. He reviewed crash photos again, this time focusing on what wasn't there. No heavy skid marks, no long braking trail, just a short, desperate press, exactly what would happen if brakes failed at the worst possible moment. A technician confirmed it later that night. There was pressure, but no response, like the system gave out instantly. Someone had ensured that. Cole studied the life insurance documents next. The payout was substantial, enough to erase debt, enough to start over. The beneficiary, Emily Harper. When confronted, she insisted it was a coincidence. Daniel wanted to protect me, that's all, she said. Then why change it so suddenly? Cole asked. Emily didn't answer. Meanwhile, a new detail surfaced. Traffic cameras from a nearby intersection showed a second vehicle following Daniel's car minutes before the crash. The footage was grainy, but the timing was precise, too precise to ignore. Cole felt the pieces tightening. Daniel had been upset. He had been planning something. He had told someone the truth would come out tomorrow, and someone had followed him into the rain. Late one night, Cole returned to his office to find an envelope on his desk, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Daniel's car, taken earlier than the crash, parked outside a garage. On the back, someone had written, "It wasn't supposed to end this way." Cole stared at the message for a long time. This wasn't a crime of rage. It wasn't impulsive. It was a plan that went wrong, and now someone was panicking. Cole pinned the photo beside Daniel's final email draft and the insurance paperwork. Lines connected names, places, and motives. A shape was forming, ugly, deliberate. The town still believed in an accident, but accidents didn't leave warnings behind. Someone had tried to control the story, control Daniel, control the outcome. They failed. And as Cole shut off the lights and headed home, one thought followed him into the dark. Daniel Harper didn't die because of bad weather or bad luck. He died because he knew something he wasn't supposed to know, and someone decided he wouldn't live long enough to tell it. By the time Detective Ryan Cole reached Part 3 of the Harper case, the word accident had lost all meaning. It lingered in official reports, still spoken aloud in meetings, but it no longer lived in Cole's mind. What sat there instead was intention, quiet, calculated, and spread across weeks of preparation. Cole began where the lie had been strongest, the car. The secondary mechanical inspection report arrived early Monday morning. He read it twice, then a third time, slower. The brake lines hadn't failed naturally. They had been weakened, scored just enough to hold under light pressure, just enough to fail under stress. Whoever did it understood timing. Under normal driving, Daniel would have noticed nothing. Under panic, the system would collapse. A controlled failure. Cole took the report straight to his captain. The reaction was immediate resistance. "You're turning a tragedy into a circus," the captain said. "There's no direct evidence pointing to murder." Cole slid the report forward. "There is now." Permission was granted reluctantly. 1 more week, that's all Cole got. He used every hour. The garage where Daniel's car had been serviced became his next focus. Cole reviewed security logs and employee schedules. One name stood out immediately, Lena Morris, a junior mechanic assigned to Daniel's vehicle the day the brakes were checked. Young, recently hired, quiet.
Cole found her at a diner just off the highway, hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't touched. "I didn't break anything," she said before he even sat down. "I didn't say you did," Cole replied calmly. "I asked who told you to stop working on the brakes." Her eyes darted to the window. "They said the parts would come later," Lena whispered, "that it wasn't urgent." "Who said that?" Cole asked. She swallowed. "Mark Ellison." That was enough. Cole returned to Mark's house with a warrant this time. The place felt different now, emptier, colder. In the garage, Cole found traces of fresh oil on the floor and a set of tools recently cleaned too thoroughly. Mark sat on the couch, arms crossed, jaw tight. "You really think I'd kill my best friend?" he said. "I think you helped someone make sure he couldn't stop," Cole replied. Mark laughed once, sharp, humorless. "You don't know what you're talking about." Cole placed the photograph from the anonymous envelope on the table. Mark's face drained of color. "That was taken days before the crash. You didn't know Daniel would die that night. You thought you were buying time." Silence stretched between them. "I didn't want him dead. That was never the plan." Cole leaned forward. "Then what was?" Mark rubbed his hands over his face. "He found out about the money, the transfers, the way the accounts were being moved through Emily's name. He said he'd go to the police." Emily. The name settled heavily between them. "She came to me, said Daniel was becoming unstable, that he was threatening to destroy everything. She just wanted to scare him, slow him down." Cole stood. "You compromised his brakes." "I thought he'd notice," Mark snapped. "I thought he'd stop driving until it was fixed." But panic didn't follow plans. Cole left Mark in custody and drove straight to the Harper house. Emily didn't pretend this time. She looked tired, hollow. "You already know," she said quietly. "I know you benefited," Cole replied. "I know Daniel was planning to expose something, and I know someone followed him that night." Emily's hands trembled. "I didn't tell anyone to follow him." "Then who did?" Cole asked. Emily closed her eyes. "My brother," she whispered. "He was supposed to make sure Daniel didn't leave town." The second car. The footage sharpened now in Cole's mind. Not a stranger, but family. Someone trusted, someone desperate. Emily's brother Evan was found later that evening at a motel outside town. He didn't resist arrest. He looked like a man who hadn't slept since the crash. "I was just supposed to talk to him, convince him to calm down." "Then why follow him?" Cole asked. His voice broke. "Because Emily said if he left, everything would collapse." Everything already had. The final piece came from the phone itself. Daniel's damaged phone was restored enough to recover fragments of audio, part of a voicemail that never sent. In it, Daniel's voice was clear, angry, hurt. "You lied to me, all of you, and tomorrow I'm done protecting your secrets." Cole listened to it twice. Daniel had trusted the wrong people. By the end of the week, the accident label was officially removed. Charges were prepared. The town buzzed with shock and disbelief as names they recognized became headlines. But one question still haunted Cole. Why that night? The answer came during Emily's final interview. "He was going to meet someone the next morning," she said softly. "An investigator. About the money. About Mark. About me." She looked up, tears finally falling. "I thought I could control it," she whispered. "I thought fear would be enough." Fear rarely is. As Cole left the interrogation room, he understood the truth fully now. Daniel Harper hadn't been killed by a single decision. He'd been killed by a series of choices made by people who believed they could manage consequences. They couldn't. The interrogation room was colder than it needed to be. Detective Ryan Cole noticed it every time he walked in, how the chill seemed to sharpen truths, strip away comfort. Emily Harper sat on one side of the metal table, hands clasped tightly, eyes fixed on the surface as if staring too long at Cole would shatter what little control she had left. This was the end of the line. Cole entered quietly, closing the door behind him. No rush, no raised voice. The truth no longer needed force. "You know why you're here," he said. Emily nodded faintly. "Because it went wrong?" "That's one way to put it," Cole replied, taking a seat across from her. He placed a thin folder on the table but didn't open it. "Before I say anything else, I want to hear it from you. Not pieces, not excuses. Everything." For a long moment, Emily said nothing. Then her shoulders sagged, as if she'd been holding herself upright through sheer will. "Daniel wasn't supposed to die," she whispered. Cole didn't interrupt. "He found out about the money," she continued. "The transfers. Mark thought he was being clever, moving small amounts, hiding them inside legitimate accounts. But Daniel noticed. He always noticed things like that." She let out a broken laugh. "That's what made him dangerous." "He confronted you," Cole said. "Yes," Emily replied. "He said he was done covering for us, said he'd go to the police, said he'd expose everything the next morning." Her voice cracked. "That would have ruined us. Mark would have gone to prison. My brother would have been dragged into it. And me? I'd lose everything." "So you decided to scare him," Cole said flatly. Emily nodded again. "I thought if he was shaken enough, he'd slow down, think, maybe even forgive me." Cole finally opened the folder, sliding out photographs, brake lines, surveillance stills, the traffic camera showing the second car behind Daniel's. "You set a chain in motion. You don't get to choose how it ends." Tears spilled freely now. "I didn't tell Mark to weaken the brakes," Emily said quickly. "I just said Daniel needed a reason to stop. Mark made his own choice." "And your brother?" Cole asked. "I asked Evan to follow him, just to talk, make sure he didn't leave town. He wasn't supposed to push him. He wasn't supposed to do anything." But fear had already done the pushing. Cole stood slowly. Daniel pressed his brakes that night. He knew something was wrong, and in that moment, every lie you built became fatal. Emily covered her face with her hands. "I loved him. I just loved myself more." Across town, Mark Ellison sat in another interrogation room, his confidence long gone. When confronted with Emily's confession, he didn't fight it. He stared at the table, eyes hollow. "I thought I was helping," he said quietly. "I thought if the brakes failed once, he'd get scared and stop driving." "You thought wrong." Mark nodded. "I know." Evan's statement followed soon after. He described following Daniel through the rain, headlights dimmed, panic rising with every mile. He never planned to confront him on the road, only at home. But when Daniel's car suddenly veered, Evan froze. "I watched him crash, and I didn't stop." Silence, too, was a choice. The arrests came swiftly. The town that had once placed flowers by the roadside now gathered outside the courthouse, stunned. Faces that had smiled at neighborhood barbecues appeared on evening news broadcasts under the word "charged." Murder didn't look the way they expected. At Daniel Harper's funeral, Detective Cole stood at the back, watching as neighbors whispered to one another, eyes darting, trust unraveling. Emily was absent. Mark was absent. Evan was absent. Only the truth was present now, heavy, undeniable. Weeks later, Cole returned to Willow Creek Road. The tree still bore scars from the crash, though the road had been cleaned, repaved, normalized. Cars passed without slowing. He stood there for a while, thinking about Daniel's final voicemail, about how close the truth had come to daylight. Some crimes explode into the open. Others disguise themselves as accidents, hoping no one looks twice. Cole looked down the road one last time before turning back toward his car. The case was closed. The lies had collapsed, but the lesson remained. People didn't always kill out of hatred. Sometimes they killed to protect the story they were telling themselves, and sometimes that story worked until someone pressed the brakes and realized they were already too late. The town would remember Daniel Harper as a victim of tragedy, but Detective Ryan Cole would remember him as something else entirely, the man whose death proved that accidents don't lie, people do.